The night was as dark as ink. In the old wooden house in the neighboring village, Renn was squatting beside the fire and roasting a thin hare. The oil drips on the fire, making a sizzling sound, and the fragrance can hardly hold the musty smell in the house. He lowered his head and cut the rabbit meat. His hands were filled with old tricks, and his face was filled with indifference. 18 years ago, he had long been ill with such acid days. Everyone in the village called him Boile. No one knew that his real name was Rennes Caslan, and no one knew that he was the last blood of the Caslan Dynasty that once ruled Aerland mainland. Boile! Someone is looking for it outside. The old village chief's voice came from outside, as rough as a scraper. Renn's eyebrows sniffed, and the dagger in his hand stopped. He stood up and pushed open the door. The cold wind poured in, and the fire swayed. The old village chief stood at the door, with uneasiness in his eyes. There were several strangers next to him, wrapped in black robe, hiding under the hood, and pressing the hilt of the knife around his waist. His air was very uneven. "Who are you?" Renn put on a stern look, inserted the dagger into his waistband with his hands, staring at the other party with his eyes tightly. The man in black robe sneered, and the sound was like a snake spitting out a letter. "Don't wear it, Renn Caslan. We have been looking for you for 18 years and finally found you this missed fish." Renn's heart was tight and he didn't show any voice on his face. "What? Caslan? Brother, you think it's wrong. I'm just a scoundrel. Where's the name? Stop talking." Another man in black robe drew his sword directly, and the cold light flashed, pointing directly at Renn's neck. "Your blood and breath cannot harm anyone. The descendants of the royal family must die today." Renn's pupils shrank suddenly, and a buzzing sound in his brain. Bloody breath? How do these guys know? For 18 years, he has been hiding without any leakage. The most gossiped mother in the village thinks he is an orphan. It seems that today is impossible to hide. "Run!" The old village chief suddenly yelled, pushed Renn, and he pushed himself at the man in black, trying to hold them. "Old man, seeking death." The man in black robe slapped out with a knife, and the old village chief fell to the ground with a sound, and the blood stained the mud. "Mischief!" Renn's eyes instantly turned red, and his anger roared in his chest like a wild beast. He bit his teeth, turned around and rushed into the wooden house, picking up a handful of raw iron blades in the corner. This drama was brought by him, usually used to chop firewood, and now it has become the only weapon. "Don't want to run." The man in black chased in. 5 or 6 gangs surrounded the hut group, and the sword light and sword shadows came straight towards him. Renn gritted his teeth and slammed the sword, and the iron sword collided with the other side's long knife, making a harsh sound. He was very strong, but his skills were not good at all. After a few strokes, his arms were numb and he was bleeding from his mouth. With this ability, is it worthy of being a descendant of the royal family? The man in black robe sneered, kicked Renn in the chest, kicked him directly, hitting the wooden wall, and the dust on the roof fell off. Renn covered his chest, coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his brain formed a group. "It's over. This helper is clearly an assassin from the enemy faction, and he is completely crushed. It's 18 years hidden. How can I explain it to this day? Go to die." The man in black robe cut off with a knife, and the blade was carrying a cold wind, slashing Renn's brain. Just as he was wearing a hair, Renn suddenly felt a strange heat flowing out of his body, like a flame, burning his heart to his limbs and bones. His eyes became blurred, and a low voice echoed around his ears, as if it was transmitted from the ground. "The blood awakens, the power of the destruction." What the hell? Renn didn't react yet, and his right hand suddenly raised uncontrollably, and a black-purple light burst out from the palm of his hand, like thunder tearing the night sky and directly hitting the man in the black robe. "Ah!" The man in black robe screamed. The whole person was swept and smashed into the wall of the wooden house. He fell down with 2 companions behind him, with charred smoke on his body and no longer static. The other assassins were stunned for a moment and immediately yelled, "Forbidden spell! He is the forbidden spell blood. If he kills him, he will never leave a living mouth." Renn himself was also stunned, looking at his palm, his face full of disbelief. What is this? Forbidden spell? Isn't that the power that can destroy the heaven and earth? Why did it be with him? But he couldn't think too much because the remaining assassins had already come with red eyes. Go to your big guy. Renn gritted his teeth, raised his hand again with instinct, and the black and purple light rolled out like a storm, directly turning the two assassins in front into scum, and he didn't even have time to squeak out. The wooden house collapsed in an instant, and the soil was flying. The fire was overturned by the wind. The flames reflected on Renn's face, making it look unusual. The remaining assassins were finally scared and walked for a long time, judging each other. The one who was in charge stood up and gritted her teeth and said, "Get away. This guy is so evil, go back and report to the master." Want to run? No door. Renn red eyes, the anger in his chest was not extinguished. He raised his hand, and another black-purple light came out, knocking down all the escaped assassins. A big pit was blown out of the ground, and the smoke was flooded. After everything calmed down, Renn stumbled on the ground, panting heavily, and there was still something wrong in his brain. What was that just now? Why can he use this power? Also, how could people from the enemy suddenly find him? Your Highness, are you okay? A low voice suddenly rose from behind, with heavy respect. Renn turned suddenly, and the iron sword realized that it was a tall figure standing far away. The man was wearing old armor, covered in frost on his face, carrying a huge iron shield on his shoulder, and a roaring lion was engraved on the shield. He knelt down, lowered his head, his voice filled with excitement. "After Grey Iron Shield, I finally found you, the original inheritor of the Caslan Dynasty, His Highness Renn." Renn was stunned for a moment, and the iron sword in his hand almost fell to the ground. "Who are you?" "What Highness?" "Don't get close to me, I don't know you." Grey raised his head, his eyes as if he was like a block. "Your Highness, I am your father's miracle that year, and I swear to protect the Caslan bloodshed to the death. I have been looking for your whereabouts over the years, and today I finally arrived. The power of the forbidden spell proves your identity without a doubt." Renn's mouth twitched, and he didn't want to admit it in his heart, but that power was indeed not something that ordinary people could do. He gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, even if you are real, then why are you here? This place has been targeted by the enemy and the village cannot be saved." Grey stood up, his voice low. "Your Highness, since the enemy can find this, it means that they have grasped your thread. The revenge of the Caslan Dynasty must be reported, and I will be willing to follow you and return to your throne." "The throne?" Renn smiled bitterly and slammed his head. "I'm almost gone, so why do I have the intention to think about the throne? But what's the forbidden spell you just said? Why do I have such power?" Grey's eyes flashed and he lowered his voice. "Your Highness, the forbidden spell is the ultimate power of Caslan's blood, which is said to destroy the entire Aerland land. But this power also brings countless disasters, so it is sealed in the depths of your blood, and will only wake up at the head of life and death. Your ancestors used it to retreat countless enemies, but they also caused betrayal." "Betray?" Renn bowed and suddenly remembered something. "Are you saying, my bastard brother, Carr?" Grey pointed a little, and there was a flash of anger in his eyes. "That's right. His Highness Carl betrayed the dynasty, surrendered to the enemy, and even sold your position with ease. If it weren't for him, you wouldn't have been here." Renn's fist clenched and his chest seemed to be blocked. "Carl, this name is like a knife, and every time he thinks of it, it makes him hate it. When the dynasty collapsed that year, he was still young and had a blurry memory, but the news of Carr's selling family was engraved in his brain like a brand. One day, I will kill him with ease." Renn gritted his teeth, his voice filled with hatred. "Your Highness, the road to revenge is long, but I will always be with you." Grey knelt down on his knees, his voice determined. "When the urgent task is, we must leave here. Since the assassin of the enemy has come the first wave, there will be a second wave. I suggest that we first look for the royal saint, the Blade of the Blade, which is the symbol of the Caslan Dynasty. Only it can summon the old troops and lay the foundation for the revenge." Renn was silent for a while, and finally said, "Okay, I'll hear you. But I'm not your Highness. Just call me Renn, Don't mess with those dumb ones. Gray's mouth slightly raised his mouth, but he lowered his head respectfully. Yes, Lord Renn. The night wind became colder, and the dead bodies of the village looked particularly quiet in the fire. Renn looked back at the fallen village chief, and felt like he was stabbed in his heart. He squatted down, closed the old village chief's eyes lightly, and said in a low voice, "Old man, thank you. I won't let you die in vain. Let's go." Renn stood up, carrying the iron sword on his shoulder, his eyes a little more determined. "Gray, what's the way ahead?" Gray pointed to the mountains far away, and his voice was low. "When you cross that mountain, it is the edge of the black iron forest. The rope that broke the blade was hidden there, but the place was not peaceful." Renn grinned, with a cold light in his eyes. "It's better to be uneasy, I'm just looking for something to exhale." The edge of the black iron forest, the night wind shaved like a knife, and the tree shadows swayed like ghosts under the moonlight. Renn wrapped his broken cloak tightly with his iron blade on his shoulders, and his footsteps were not hesitant. "Hey, Gray, what is this broken blade? Can it really help me to pull up a team?" Renn kicked the stone on his foot, bringing some impatient words in his language. "After walking for the middle of the night, my legs were almost broken, but I couldn't see any ghost." Gray replied in a low voice, "Mr. Renn, the blade is a sacred figure of the Caslan Dynasty. It is said that it is not only a magic weapon that can cut mountains and rivers, but also a symbol of royal power. That year, your ancestors summoned the entire group of knights in the mainland and retreated from foreign enemies. As long as they get it, those old subordinates who are loyal to Caslan will definitely gather in your command." "It sounds pretty awesome." Renn curled his lips, "But this place looks very evil. Are you sure the ropes are fine? Don't be empty and you'll still be beaten." Gray was about to answer, but suddenly stopped and raised his hand to signal Renn not to make a sound. His eyes were staring at a shrub in front of him, and his hands had already grasped the edge of the iron shield, and he said in a low voice, "Be calm, be careful." Renn's eyebrows snaked and subconsciously clamped the iron sword. The next second, a few black shadows suddenly appeared from the bush, as fast as wild animals, and rushed towards them. Under the moonlight, Renn saw the other party clearly, a guy wearing dark gray armor, holding a knife in his hand, a black cloth covering his face, only a pair of cold eyes were exposed, and he came over with a slapped face. "Assassin of the enemy!" Gray growled and suddenly slapped the iron shield in front of him, and the whole person was slamming in front of Renn as if blocking the wall. "Sir Renn, retreat, I'll come and slap." "Bad." Renn gritted his teeth and slapped his iron sword. "I'm not here to lose my head, I'll cut one." As the voice fell, the first assassin had already arrived in front of him, and his sword slashed Gray's brain with a cold light. Gray did not avoid it, and the iron shield suddenly raised a loud bang, and the assassin was shocked and flew backwards. He even took off his sword and hit the tree and made a slight shock. Gray kicked it out with one foot, and the iron boot hit the chest of another assassin. The man flew a few meters away, spitting blood in his mouth, and couldn't get up. "Awesome, brother." Renn's eyes lit up, his mouth was raised, and his hands were not relaxed. An assassin rushed over from the side and pointed his knife straight into his waist. Renn reacted slowly. He slapped the iron sword and sparked 4 times. Although his strength was not as strong as the other party, he did not take a step back. "Go to die." The assassin missed and suddenly took out a dagger with his other hand, wiped it at Renn's neck, and his movements were fast and fierce. Renn's head was tight and he couldn't think too much. He instinctively leaned back, and the dagger rubbed his face and brought a stinging pain. He gritted his teeth and kicked the other party's knee. Taking advantage of the unstable center of gravity, the iron blade suddenly stabbed out, hitting the assassin's shoulder, and blood was leaking out. "Ah!" The assassin screamed and fell to the ground. Renn didn't have time to catch his breath. 2 more knives came out from behind and slashed with swords. He cried out in secret and kept busy placing the sword, but the strength of the 2 people was obviously greater than the one just now. The iron sword was shaking and its mouth was almost cracked. "Mr. Renn." Gray looked loudly, and the iron shield slammed into the two assassins like a huge flying plate. The iron shield had a huge force and smashed one of them directly, while the other was rubbed by the edge, and he stepped back for a few steps, making his face shocked. "Why are you still fucking me in a daze? Run!" Gray grabbed Renn and turned around and rushed deep into the forest. Although the assassin behind was injured, he clearly did not intend to let them go. He gritted his teeth and chased after him, and shouted in his mouth, "Don't let them run away," the Lord said. "Let's see people alive and die and see gangsters." Renn ran and cried, "This helping dog is really a matter of being enforced." "Gray, where are we going? We can't be chased all the time, right?" Gray gasped and said in a low voice, "The entrance to the ancient zodiac is not far ahead, and the ropes of the blade are there. As long as you go in, the terrain is complex, they will not be able to chase after it." "Okay, I'll hear you." Renn gritted his teeth and accelerated. Although his legs were sore, the pressure of being chased made him snatch it down. The assassin behind him was getting closer and closer, and occasionally a flying knife flew over his ears, bringing a chill. After running for about 10 minutes, a broken stone wall finally appeared in front of me, covered with moss, and a dark hole in the middle, emitting an indescribable strange smell. Gray pointed to the entrance of the cave and growled, "It's there, go in." The two men pierced into the entrance of the cave, and the assassin behind them followed him in tightly, but the terrain was indeed as Gray said. The passage inside the cave was narrow and there were many forks, and the sound of the pursuers quickly became scattered. "Huh! I've been completely lost." Gray slammed his head, his face relaxed. "Sir Renn, don't be careless. This is the ancient celestial world. It is said that the ancestors of the Caslan Dynasty sealed the power of the forbidden spells that year, and there were traps and guards everywhere. Although the assassins were thrown away at a time, they would not give up." "Trail?" Renn raised his eyebrows, and without having enough questions, a light click sound suddenly came from his feet. He looked down and found that he stepped on a raised stone slab, and the wall next to it began to shake violently, and countless spikes fell from the top and smashed straight towards them. "Damn!" Renn shouted, then hurriedly swung to the side, reluctantly avoiding the first wave of spikes, but his shoulders were still rubbed, and the blood was instantly blown out. Gray reacted faster, and the iron shield went upwards, holding up several spikes, but the force was too strong, and even he was shocked to retreat a few steps. "What's this broken place? Don't be so careful." Renn gritted his teeth and got up, with a little more alert in his eyes. Although that wave of trap was not fatal, it was obviously just the beginning. There might be something else waiting before. "Be careful, Lord Renn, the connections here are all connected. If you step on the wrong step, you may not be covered by the entire army." Gray said in a deep voice, staring at the passage ahead, "Follow me and I will explore the way." Renn clicked a little, and although he didn't say it, he trusted Gray a little more. Although this guy doesn't talk much, he is really reliable in the key moment. The two walked forward carefully, the passage became deeper and deeper, and there was a damp musty smell in the air, and occasionally there was a dripping sound, which made people creepy. After walking for about a minute, a huge stone chamber suddenly appeared in front of me. There was an old stone platform in the center, and a long sword radiating with faint golden light was inserted on it. The sword was full of complex runes, and there was an extraordinary atmosphere when I looked away. "That's the breaking blade?" Renn's eyes lit up, and his heartbeat was a little faster. Gray pointed at the head, and there was a few excitement in his voice. "It's right, Lord Renn, it's it. As long as you get it, the first step to resurrection will be out." But Renn was not at ease yet. The walls around the stone chamber suddenly lit up red lights, the ground began to shake, and countless stone statues stood up from the corner, with angry light flashing in their eyes, and the cold light of weapons in their hands was obviously not something to deal with. "It's another trap?" Renn gritted his teeth and cut the iron sword. "It's too difficult to get this broken sword." "Sir Renn, I'm here to open the road. You can take advantage of the opportunity to hit the stone platform." Gray growled, and the iron shield suddenly hit the ground, shaking the ground, and several gaps broke. He rushed towards the group of stone statues with an arrow, and the iron shield swept, directly smashing the 2 stone statues in front into pieces, and the gravel was flying, which was amazing. Renn gritted his teeth and took advantage of Gray's attracting firepower and rushed towards the stone platform. Although there are many stone statues, they are not fast. He avoided several attacks with his body and finally approached the stone platform. But just as he reached out to pull the sword, a huge stone statue suddenly came from behind, and the stone axe hit his back with a sound. "Roll open!" Renn's heart tightened, and before he could think too much, the familiar heat in his body surged up again. He turned around suddenly, raised his right hand, and the black and purple light burst out like thunder, directly stalking on the stone statue. The stone statue was instantly blown into a pile of gravel, and the surrounding small stone statues were affected and collapsed. "Huh, this forbidden spell is so fucking useful." Renn gasped and grinned. Although the hit just now gave him a little bit, the pleasure of this power was so cool that it made people suck. He turned around, grabbed the broken blade, and pulled it out suddenly. A sound of clear bird came out from the sword body, and the golden light was illuminated. The entire stone chamber was illuminated, and the stone statues stopped moving, as if they had lost their power. "It's done!" Renn lifted his long sword, his face full of excitement. But at this moment, Gray suddenly yelled, "Sir Renn, be careful behind you." Renn was stunned and turned around and saw a familiar figure standing at the entrance of the stone chamber car. There was a sneer on his face, and there were several men in black robes following him. His temperament was more than twice as strong as those assassins just now. "Renn, I didn't expect you to find this sword." Carl's voice was as cold as a venomous snake, his eyes filled with mockery. "But, it's a pity that you can't take this sword away. Because today, you have to die here." Renn's pupils shrank, and his hand holding the breaking blade tightened. The anger in his chest instantly became angry. "Carl, you bastard, it turns out that you sent someone to chase me. I'll kill you today." Carl sneered and snatched his hand. The man in black robe immediately rushed over, feeling ruthless. Renn gritted his teeth, his eyes locked Carl tightly, and there was only one thought in his brain: this account must be liquidated today. Renn held the broken blade tightly, and the golden light reflected on his face. His eyes were as cold as ice. He stared at Carl, the familiar and disgusting face, and the anger in his chest was about to ejaculate like a volcano. The man in black robe next to him had already been knocked over, and the sword light and sword-shaped shadows were killing, and the air seemed to be torn apart. "Gray, don't let this helper get close to me." Renn growled, and his feet did not take a step back. The broken blade in his hand shook slightly, as if responding to his anger. "I understand, Lord Renn." Gray gritted his teeth, and the iron shield slammed the ground, shaking the gravel. He was like a roaring lion, rushing towards the group of men in black robes, with their shields swept, and smashing the 2 frontal groups, causing a cracked crunch. The blood was pouring on the ground, and the remaining man in black robe was clearly stunned, but he still gritted his teeth and rushed forward, pointing directly at Gray's empty file. Renn had no time to take care of Gray's battle, and his eyes finally locked in Carr. The guy stood at the entrance of the stone chamber, holding his chest with his hands in his chest, looking high, and the sneer at the corner of his mouth seemed to be picking. "Renn, I haven't seen it for 18 years, you're still like this waste." Carl's voice was cold, and he was full of mockery. "I thought I could turn over with a broken sword. Make a dream. It's my kindness to be able to get out of here alive today." "You are kind." Renn gritted his teeth and rushed into his brain with anger. "Carl, you sold your family that year, which made me wander on the street. I have been remembering this account for 18 years. If I don't kill you today, I will not be a human being." Carl snorted coldly, and a disdain flashed in his eyes. "Just hate you? A beggar who can't even eat food is worth challenging me. Don't say that your half-baked forbidden spell, even the Caslan Dynasty in its heyday would have been trampled on me. Hard-mouthed, right? Then try." Renn could no longer help, and suddenly raised his right hand, and the familiar heat flowed out of his heart. The black and purple light condensed in his palm, roaring towards Carl like thunder. Carl's face changed slightly, and he certainly didn't expect Renn to take action directly. A flash of his body, a black-purple light brushed his shoulders and swept directly on the wall of the stone chamber, blowing out a large pit, and the gravel was flying. Carl's cloak was shattered, revealing the delicate armor inside, and finally there was a bit of solemnity on his face. The power of the forbidden spell is indeed a bit meaningful. Carl licked his lips, and a hint of greed flashed in his eyes. But, Renn, do you think this power can threaten me? Naive. As the voice fell, Carl pulled out a dark red sword from his waist. The strange light was flowing on the sword's body, shaking like a living thing. He slashed out, and a bloody drama hit Renn directly, so fast that it could not react. Damn! Renn's heart was tightened and he quickly lifted the breaking blade. The golden light and the bloody air collided hard together, making a harsh sound of blasting sound. The impact force directly shocked Renn back a few steps, and several stone slabs were broken under his feet, and the tiger's mouth was numb. How is this guy so strong? Renn gritted his teeth and sweated heavily. Carl's power was completely beyond his imagination. There was a sense of evil breath in his bloody air, which made his heart bleed. Sir Renn, hold on. Gray's roar came from the side. He had solved several men in black robe, but his body was also swept. A deep hole was made in his left arm with a knife, and blood was flowing. He gritted his teeth and rushed to Renn, and the iron shield blew off a man in black robe. Gray, don't be too hard. Renn felt his heart sank when he saw this. Although Brother Gray was so tough, he was not a slap in the iron. If this continues, he would have fallen down long ago. My Lord Renn, my life is yours. I will never let this helper hurt you. Gray growled, his eyes as if it were steel. The iron shield was smashed out again, and another man in black robe was smashed to vomit blood and fell to the ground. Carl looked at everything coldly, and the smile on his lips became even more intense. Renn, look, the old dog around you can almost no longer hold back. Do you really think that you can fight me with this little person? Tell you that I also brought a great army outside. As long as I give an order, this broken place will become your tomb in minutes. Big army? Renn's pupils shrank, and his heart suddenly became tight. If Carl really brought a horse to him, it would be possible that he would explain it today. But on the surface, he still said with a hard mouth and gritted his teeth, if you have the ability, let it go, I will pick your whole family alone. You'll be stubborn until the last moment, okay, then I'll do it for you. Carl sneered and shook his hand suddenly. A heavy footstep sound came from the stone outdoors. Then countless soldiers wearing heavy armor rushed in. The long spear in his hand flashed with cold light, and his air was as fierce as a wild beast. Damn, how many are there? Renn's skin was numb when he saw it. A few days later, there were hundreds of people, blocking the entrance of the stone chamber so that it was blocked. How to fight this? Even if he has the forbidden curse, he will not be able to fuck so many people at once. Sir Renn, get out. Gray growled, and the iron shield suddenly hit the ground, shaking a smoke and tearing a path. He grabbed Renn and rushed to the passage on the other side of the stone chamber. Stay the Green Mountains there, don't worry about not having firewood. Want to run? It's too late. Carl snorted coldly, and the dark red sword in his hand sniffed out again. Several blood-red swords were squinted at Renn and Gray like a net, and at the same time ordered, chasing me, don't let them run away. Renn gritted his teeth, ran back to his head, and his palm condensed in black-purple light again, and swung hard, struck the front row of the pursuers. The light burst out, and more than 10 soldiers were blown away directly, and their voices were filled with blood and blood. But the soldiers behind him seemed to be desperate, stepped on their companions' bodies and continued to rush up. Is this helper crazy? Renn shouted, and followed Gray into the passage without looking back. The sound of the footsteps behind me is getting closer and closer, and the sound of swords and swords colliding makes people panic. The two people ran all the way, and the traps in the passage were also touched several times, with spikes and rocks falling, but fortunately, Gray was good at it and forced to protect Renn and rushed out. When they finally ran out of the ancient world, the sky was already slightly brighter, and the morning fog covered the black iron forest, and the air was filled with a humid smell. Huh! I've been thrown away. Renn gasped heavily against a big tree, and the broken blade in his hand was still shaking slightly, and the golden light seemed to be hidden. He looked down and saw that Gray's face was so white that it was scary. His wounds were bleeding, and the iron shield was covered with knife marks. "Gray, are you okay?" Renn's eyebrows were a little nervous, and there was a lot of concern in his language. "Well, Lord Renn, I can still hold it." Gray reluctantly smiled, but as soon as he finished speaking, he coughed up a mouthful of blood, his body shook, and almost fell down. "Don't force yourself." Renn hurriedly held him, his heart as if he was blocked. Although Gray didn't say that, he took many knives to protect him. If the injury is not handled, I guess it must be explained here. "Sir Renn, it's not a time to rest." Gray gritted his teeth and stood up straight, whispering, "Karl's army will catch up at any time. We must leave and find a safe place to regroup." "Reorganize?" Renn smiled bitterly, looking around. There was no ghost except the trees or trees. "Only we can do anything to reorganize? Karl has so many people, we are not the opponent at all." Gray's eyes flashed and he said softly, "Mr. Renn, have you forgotten the meaning of breaking the blade? It is a symbol of the Caslan Dynasty. As long as the news is passed, those old subordinates who are loyal to the dynasty will definitely reunite with you. I know a few hidden points. That year, your father left many people there. As long as you find them, the resurrection will not be a dream." Renn looked down at the broken blade in his hand. Although the golden light was weak, the power made his heart warm. Resurrection. This phrase sounds quite far away, but now, I guess I can't save my life without trying it. "Okay, listen to you." Renn gritted his teeth and helped Gray stand up. "Speak for sure, where's the recent spot?" Gray pointed to the deep forest and said in a low voice, "Follow the mountain in front, there is a place called Rennes Valley. I made an appointment with a few old brothers that year. If the dynasty has hope of revival, it will hit the head there. Although they are scattered everywhere, as long as they see the blade of the blade, they will definitely come back. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go." Renn carried the blade of blade, helped Gray and walked forward. Although his legs were sore as if he had been filled with a penis, the fire in his heart made him hard and he didn't stop. The two left for most of the day and finally arrived at Rennes Valley. As expected, this place is as its name is full of thorns, and there are several old stone houses hidden in the valley, which seem to have been no one living there. Renn placed Gray in a stone house, handled the lower wound briefly, then walked to the valley with the broken blade, and prepared to release the signal. "Gray, do you think this drama can really summon people back?" Renn raised the blade of blade and asked suspiciously. "Sir Renn, believe me." Gray leaned against the stone wall. Although his voice was weak, his eyes were still so firm. "Put the broken blade and activate it with your blood force. Those who are loyal to Caslan will definitely receive a call." Renn clicked a little, took a deep breath, and inserted the broken blade into the ground at the entrance of the valley. The sword's body shook, and the golden light burst out instantly, like a pillar of light that shone through the sky, illuminating the entire valley. "Come on, whoever remembers the Caslan Dynasty will bring me back." Renn growled, and the sound was full of determination. It took no time for the faraway to come. At first, there were just a few scattered figures, wearing old armor and holding raw glass weapons, slowly walking towards the valley. When they saw the light of the blade of blade, their eyes were filled with excitement. They knelt on their knees and shouted in a loud voice, "We will greet your highness. Caslan's glory will never be extinguished." Renn felt excited when he watched this scene. Although there were not many people, this was the first time he felt that resurrection was not empty talk. In the next few days, more people arrived in the country, including veterans, wandering warriors, and even descendants of some families hidden among the people. Although they were dressed, the same fire was ignited in their eyes, revenge for Caslan. "Sir Renn, we have more than 300 people now. Although not many, we can barely fight a tough battle. Gray's injury was a little better. He stood beside Renn and made a low voice, Karl's army is expected to catch up here soon. We must take the initiative to attack and catch them off guard. Take it out? Renn raised his eyebrows and grinned, I like this. Tell me, how do you fuck me? Gray pointed to a plain outside the valley and said softly, according to the spies' reports, Karl's army is operating there and is ready to attack us. They have about 2,000 people. Although there are many people, the terrain is beneficial to us. As long as we make good use of the valley's safety and land, we have the opportunity to slap their forwards and slap Karl's atmosphere. Okay, that's all. Renn slapped his thighs, and there was a cold light in his eyes. I have long wanted to meet like Karl, this time he knew who was the real Caslan blood. That night, Renn quietly walked down the valley with more than 300 people, and with the help of the night, he dived to the vicinity of the Karl army. Looking far away, the enemy's torches were connected together, with dense tents, and the patrol soldiers came and walked back and forth, with a strong atmosphere. Sir Renn, we are stealing in 3 ways. I will take one team to attract firepower head-on. You and the other team rush from the side. After the third team is responsible. Gray made a low voice, his eyes sharp like a knife. No problem, just do it. Renn pointed his head, the broken blade in his hand had already begun to shake, and the golden light seemed to be hidden. He said to the warriors behind him, Brothers, today we either die or they die, and beat me hard. Yes, Your Highness. The crowd said in a low voice, and the military spirit rose. With a command, the battle exploded in an instant. Gray led the first team toward the front of the camp. As soon as the iron shield smashed, he directly fucked several patrol soldiers and shouted to death. The enemy was caught off guard and formed a group of people. Renn took the opportunity to kill him from the side with his wings. The blade of the broken blade was slammed, and the golden light was like waves. Several enemy soldiers were directly split into 2.5, full of blood. Kill! Don't hold back! Renn growled, his eyes full of killing. The power of the forbidden spell in his body was stimulated again, and the black and purple light intertwined with the golden light, turning into thunderous waves of impact, directly in the middle of the enemy's front. Explosions came one after another, and dozens of soldiers were blown up to the bloody and clambered to the night sky. What kind of power is this? The enemy's leader was shocked and quickly ordered a counterattack, but Renn's attack was too fierce, and the power of the forbidden curse evolved even more violently. Each attack was like a disaster, directly destroying a whole area of camp. The tent was torn apart, and the flames were everywhere. The enemy's front was almost broken, and the military's atmosphere instantly fell to the bottom. Sir Renn, fuck you pretty. Gray came back from the front, covered in blood, smiling like a child, the enemy frontman is already in trouble. Let's get more fucked, that bastard Karl can't sit still. If you can't sit still, you have to roll it out. Renn gritted his teeth, wiped the blood from his face, and stared at the depths of the camp. Sure enough, it took not long before a familiar figure came out of the host account, and it was Karl. His face was blue, and the dark red sword in his hand was filled with heavy killing, which was obviously not lightly caused by Renn's wave of stealing. Renn, you dare to take the initiative to deliver this waste to the door? Karl gritted his teeth and cried, his voice filled with anger, I slaughtered you by hand today, see how long you can still get. Come on, who are you afraid? Renn lifted the broken blade, and the golden light and black-purple light intertwined, and his atmosphere was not weak. He was about to rush over when Gray suddenly rushed over, and the iron shield blew and forced a bloody rage that had sneaked from the side. Puff! Gray's mouth was leaking blood, and his body shook violently, and he was obviously seriously injured. The air was deliberately stolen by Karl. The powerful siege and the iron shield were cracked. Gray! Renn's eyes instantly turned red, and his anger thrust his brain. He held Gray and gritted his teeth, you'll hold me back. I have to kill such a bastard Karl today and take revenge on you. Sir Renn, don't worry about me, kill him. Gray gritted his teeth and said this, his eyes full of determination. Ren's heart aches, and he suddenly stood up, pointing the broken blade at Carl, his voice as low as if coming from the ground. "Carl, today you either die, or I die. I swear to kill you with your hands." Carl sneered, and the dark red sword in his hand sniffed, and the soldiers behind him gathered again, and his atmosphere was pressed over again. Renn gritted his teeth and carried the horses to engage in fierce exchanges with the enemy. The fire of the battle illuminated the entire night sky, killing the sky. In the next few days, Renn fought and retreated with a horse. Although he successfully recreated Car's front, he also suffered a lot of losses. Gray's injuries became heavier and heavier, and Renn felt like he was pressing down on his heart, but he knew that it was not the time to stop. According to the spy's report, Car is gathering more troops and is ready to crush them. "Sir Renn, we can't drag it anymore." Gray lay on the simple rack, his voice weak. "Carl's goal is not just us, he also wants to seize the Forbidden Spell land. As long as he controls the power of the Forbidden Spell, the entire land will be destroyed. We must be ahead of him, enter the Forbidden Spell land, and wake up your power." "The Forbidden Curse land?" Renn's eyebrows snaked and held the blade tightly. "Where's that place?" Gray pointed to the sky far away and said in a low voice, "It's right at the northernmost end of the Great Wall, and it says that there is the ultimate power of the Caslan blood pellet sealing it. But that place is extremely dangerous. That year, your ancestors tried their best to seal the Forbidden Spell. If we go, we will die forever. I have to go forever." Renn gritted his teeth, his eyes as if he was like an iron. "If Carl is not removed, I will never sleep and be at ease." "Gray, stop, let's go there together and fight this battle to the end." After speaking, Renn turned his head to look at the warriors behind him, lifted the broken blade, and shouted loudly, "Brothers, come with me. Go to the Forbidden Spell land, get back the glory belonging to us, and stomp that bastard Carl under his feet." "Yes, Your Highness." The crowd responded with peace, and the military spirit was ignited again. Renn was carrying a horse and snow on his head, approaching the Purgatory Mountain step by step. The mountains far away seemed to be hidden in the clouds, and there was a sense of indescribable pressure. He knew that not only Carl's army was ahead, but he might face something even more terrifying. But he only had one thought in his heart: no matter what price he paid, he must win this revival battle. The wind and snow of the purgated mountain flew on his face like a knife. Renn wrapped his cloak, carried the broken blade on his shoulder, and his steps stopped at all. Although the warriors following behind were exhausted, there was a fire in their eyes. They knew that this battle was not only about the revenge, but also about the fate of the entire Aerland mainland. Gray lay on the easy-to-reel shelf, being lifted by several sloughs, his face as white as paper, but he still gritted his teeth and held it, and kept giving Renn a low voice. "Sir Renn, the entrance to the Forbidden Spell land is ahead." Gray's voice was as weak as a line in the wind. He raised his hand and pointed to a dark rift deep in the mountain. "That place is very evil. That year, your ancestors used all their strength to seal the power of the Forbidden Spell. After we went in, we might be in danger of life at any time." "What's danger?" Renn gritted his teeth, grinned, his eyes full of determination. "Carl is almost catching up with me. If we don't try, can we wait for him to be chopped?" "Gray, don't worry, I won't let you accompany me for nothing." Gray was reluctantly trying to get a little bit of relief, and a look of relief was flashing in his eyes. "My Lord Renn. With your words, it's worth my death. Stop being unlucky." Renn glared at him, and turned to the warriors behind him. "Brothers, I will cheer me up after I go in. This battle is won, we are the heroes of Caslan. If we lose, we have to pull that bastard Carl to the ground together." "Yes, Your Highness." The crowd responded with serene voice, and the sound was particularly excited in the snow. Renn stepped into the rift valley with his head, and the air instantly became cold, as if it could contain people's souls. The stone walls on both sides of the rift valley were filled with strange runes, and black and purple light was emitting, making people's hearts burst into tears when they saw it. Not long after leaving, a huge stone door suddenly appeared in front of him, with a roaring dragon carved on it, and 2 red gems were embedded in the dragon's eyes, staring at them like living things. How did this door open? Renn raised his eyebrow and tried to cut it. As a result, the golden light just touched the stone door and was swept back by an invisible force, which made his arms numb. Mr. Renn, this door must be open with your blood power. Gray gasped and said in a low voice, drop your blood on the dragon's eyes, and the power of the forbidden spell will automatically recognize the master. Renn clicked a little, bit his finger, and dripped the blood on the dragon eye stone. As blood came into contact with the stone, the entire stone door suddenly shook violently, and the black and purple light burst out from the rune as if it was alive, gathering into a thunderous energy that penetrated Renn's heart. He snorted, feeling like he was hit hard by something, but then the familiar heat flowed out of his body, melting into the black-purple light. Gee! The stone door opened slowly, and a low sound of turtle appeared, revealing a passage leading to the deep underground, and the air was filled with decay and pressure. Renn gritted his teeth, carried the breaking blade, walked in with his head, and the warriors behind him held their weapons and prepared for unknown dangers at any time. The channel gets darker and darker the lower it goes down, and occasionally there is a dripping sound, like the low words in the ground. Renn's heart was tight, and he always felt something was wrong, but he didn't stop. After walking for about a minute, it suddenly became clear in front of me, and a huge underground cave appeared. A black and purple light ball floated in the center. In the light ball, countless thunderous energy flowed, dissipating the atmosphere that destroyed the sky and the earth. That's the source of the forbidden curse. Renn's pupils shrank, and his heartbeat was a little faster. He could feel the heat flow inside his body was surging wildly, as if responding to the call of the ball of light. That's right, Lord Renn. Gray's voice was trembling, that's the ultimate power of the Caslan bloodline. As long as you fully wake it up, don't talk about Carl, even the entire enemy army is not your opponent. Wake up? What to do? Renn turned around and his eyebrows were tightly locked. Get close to it and use your blood to share it with it. Gray said softly, but this process is dangerous and may swallow your consciousness and even make you go crazy. That year, your ancestors were because this force was out of control. Don't waste. Renn cut him off and gritted his teeth. I've come here, can I still retreat? That bastard Carl will catch up at any time. It's better to fight for a fight than to die. After saying that, he strode towards the light ball, and with each step, the heat flow inside his body became even more violent, like a wild beast roaring. When he finally stood in front of the light ball, the entire cave suddenly shook, and the black and purple light rolled out like a storm, wrapping him in it in an instant. Ah! Renn let out a low growl, feeling his brain as if it was torn apart, and countless pictures stormed the mind like a tide, the glory of the Caslan Dynasty, the battles of the ancestors, the power of the forbidden spells. Each scene was engraved in his brain like a knife, causing him to almost collapse. Sir Renn, hold on. Gray's roar came from afar, with heavy anxiety. Renn bit his teeth tightly, holding the broken blade with both hands, and the golden light intertwined with black and purple light, stabbing his mind. He growled, I'm Caslan's blood, this pain is a big deal. Come over to me. As the voice fell, the light ball suddenly exploded, and countless thunderous energy directly diamonded into his body. Renn was blown up and floated in the air, and a dazzling black-purple light burst out from his body, and the entire cave was illuminated as white. His eyes turned dark purple, and his atmosphere was stormy, like a war god walking out of the earth. This is the power of the forbidden spell that is completely awake? Renn looked down at his hands, feeling the power roaring like an invisible flood. With one blow, the stone wall next to him was directly turned into pieces, and a crack was torn out of the ground. Mr. Renn, you succeeded. Gray's voice was filled with excitement, and all the warriors were surprised, with their eyes full of worship. But Renn was not at the same time as he was excited. A heavy footstep suddenly came from the entrance of the cave. Then, a cold smile echoed, Renn, I didn't expect you to come here. The power of the forbidden spell is indeed good. Unfortunately, it has to change its master today. Renn turned his head suddenly, his pupils shrank, and only Carl was seen rushing in from the entrance with his army. He held a dark red sword in his hand, and his body was covered with strange black air, and he obviously also gained the power of a certain evil gate. There were a lot of soldiers behind him, with thousands of people, and a few black-robed magicians holding staff in their hands, and their air was fierce. "Carl, you bastard is indeed here." Renn gritted his teeth, broke the blade, and the golden light and the black and purple light intertwined, with his breath not weak. "Today I will use this forbidden spell to send you and your dog legs to the ground. I'm so stubborn now. Okay, let's see who can laugh to the end." Carl sneered and slapped his hand suddenly. The black-robed magician next to him immediately began to sing. The countless black air condensed into a huge demon, roaring and snarling at Renn. At the same time, the soldiers rushed towards them like a tide, with long spears and swords flashing against the cold light. "Brothers, let me stand." Renn yelled and rushed towards the enemy. The power of the forbidden spell in his body completely exploded, and the black and purple light rolled out like a storm, directly turning the dozen soldiers in front into pieces, and half of the demons were torn apart, making a slight cry. The battle entered the white heat in an instant. Although Renn had few soldiers, they were desperate and forced to resist the enemy's attack. Although Gray was severely injured, he still gritted his teeth and got up. The iron shield slapped on Renn's side to help him distribute the pressure. "Gray, don't be too hard." Renn felt nervous when he saw this, and he quickly shook out a black-purple light, flying several soldiers close to Gray. "Sir Renn, I can still beat him." Gray gritted his teeth, and the iron shield was smashed out again, forcing a wave of enemies back, but the corners of his mouth were bleeding. Renn felt like he had a knife cut in his heart, but he knew that it was not the time to be soft. He turned his head suddenly, his eyes locked on Carr, and gritted his teeth and said, "Carr, don't let your dog die, you have a kind of person." "It's just my wish." Carl sneered, and the dark longsword slapped, and the black air on his body swelled up like a wild beast that was snatching from Renn. He slashed out, and the bloody air was pressed down like a landslide, and the air was torn apart, making a sharp slight. Renn was not avoiding it, and the breaking blade was in front of him, and the golden light and black-purple light intertwined, directly facing the bloody red rage. The two forces collided fiercely, causing a shocking explosion. The stone waves shocked all the soldiers around them, and even the stone walls of the cave were blown out of countless cracks. "Carr, do you think you can put a little black magic on me?" "Make a dream." Renn gritted his teeth, and the power of the forbidden spell exploded again. He swung his palm, and a thunderous black-purple light shook Carr's chest. Carl's face changed and he hurriedly avoided it, but he was still hit on his shoulder. His armor was torn apart in an instant, and blood was sprayed out. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. "Renn, how could you actually hurt me with this waste? I want to see, how long can you hold me?" After speaking, Carl slapped the ground suddenly, and the black air on his body condensed into dozens of shadow blades, stabbing Renn's vital points. At the same time, the black-robed magician behind him launched an attack again, and countless black air turned into chains to try to trap Renn's actions. "Roll open!" Renn growled, and the power of the forbidden spell exploded completely. The black and purple light rolled like a violent wind, tearing the shadow blade and the black air chain to pieces. He stomped his feet, and his whole person rushed towards Carr like a cannon. The breaking blade brought a destructive air and slashed Carr's brain directly. Carr's pupils shrank, and he was busy placing the striking, but the pressure of the forbidden spell was too strong, and the dark red sword was directly chopped out with a crack. He was shocked and flew backwards, smashed on the stone wall, and spitting blood. "Carl, aren't you very awesome? Get up and fight again." Renn gasped, his eyes full of murder. He approached step by step, and the power of the forbidden spell roared inside his body, as if he wanted to crush all enemies. Carl covered his chest, his face turned blue, and gritted his teeth and said, "Renn, do you think you won? Tell you, I have another last move. This forbidden curse land is not the only one that can be used." As the voice fell, Carl bit his fingers violently, spreading blood to the ground, and chanting a string of strange spells in his mouth. In an instant, the black-purple light ball deep in the cave shook again, and a more terrifying black air burst out from it and directly diamonded into Car's body. His eyes turned to agaric red, and his wounds were compatible with the speed visible to the naked eye, and his atmosphere stormed and even overwhelmed Renn. Damn, is this guy still hiding a hand? Renn tightened his heart, holding the blade tightly, feeling the pressure doubled. Renn, go to die. Carl growled, and the dark red sword slammed, and countless black air turned into huge waves, carrying the atmosphere that destroyed the sky and the earth, towards Renn. At the same time, the soldiers and magicians behind him also launched the final attack, and the test shots would flood Renn and his warriors. "Wanna press me? I have no choice." Renn gritted his teeth, and the power of the forbidden spell was activated to the extreme, and the black-purple light burst out like thunder, forcing the huge black waves to top. He had blood in both eyes and growled, "Carl, this is our last blow, see who can survive." After speaking, Renn suddenly lifted the broken blade, and the golden light and black-purple light formed a pillar of light that slashed down hard, and then rushed straight away with the aura that destroyed everything. Carl was not willing to be outdone. His black and bloody air condensed into a huge beast, roaring towards the pillar of light. Gee! Two forces collided fiercely, the entire cave shaking violently, the stone wall collapsed, and countless cracks were torn out of the ground. Renn and Carl were both shocked by the shock wave and flew backwards, and blood was sprayed wildly, but Renn forced to forcefully fall down, while Carl slammed heavily on the ground. The dark red slam broke into two pieces, and the black air on his body quickly dissipated. "Carl, you have lost." Renn gasped heavily, stood up and pointed the blade at Carl. The sound was filled with cold killing. Carl lay on the ground, feeling unwilling to accept it, gritted his teeth and said, "Renn, do you think you can revive the country if you kill me? The power of the enemy, you will never fight. You're worried about my business." Renn snorted coldly, and the broken blade stabbed suddenly, directly piercing Carl's chest. Carl let out a scream, his eyes glared, and finally he was no longer calm. "Huh. I'm done." Renn pulled out the broken blade, stumbled and knelt on the ground, gasping heavily. The warriors behind him were also in trouble. Although they were seriously injured, looking at Carl's body, everyone showed a depressing smile on their faces. "Mr. Renn, you win." Gray was helped by several people. Although his voice was weak, his eyes were filled with relief. Renn grinned and wiped the blood from his face. "Gray, we are all still alive, this battle is worth it." After solving Carl, Renn did not stop. He knew that the enemy troops were still watching the tiger outside, so they must take advantage of the power of the forbidden spell to wake up completely and fuck them with one blow. On that day, he led the remaining warriors out of the forbidden spell and directly killed the enemy's large-scale camp. The power of the forbidden spell was extremely thrust in Renn's hands. Every strike was like a disaster in heaven. Wherever the black and purple light reached, the enemy was crushed like grass. The leader of the enemy army saw Renn like a god of war and was surprised to order a retreat directly, but Renn would not give them any chance. He led his horse to chase and kill them all the way, forcing thousands of troops to fail. 3 days later, the war in Aerland mainland finally subsided. Renn stood on the ruins of the old capital of the Caslan Dynasty with a broken blade, following countless reunited old parts. He raised his sword, the golden light illuminated the sky, and shouted loudly, "From today, the Caslan Dynasty will be revived. Who dares not accept it, come and fight. Your Highness, thousands of years old." Caslan, countless people shouted loudly, and the sound was shocking. The day when Renn ascended the throne and became king, the whole world was in full swing. After Gray was injured, he was appointed as the chief guardian. The iron shield was carried on his shoulders again, standing on Renn's side, his eyes firmly as before. The Aerland mainland regained peace, and Caslan's flags once again flocked to every inch of land. "Gray, we finally accomplished it." Renn stood on the high platform of the palace, looking at the thousands of people under his feet, and grinned. "Yes, Lord Renn." Gray lowered his head, his voice filled with respect. You are Caslan saying that the future of this large film belongs to you. Renn smiled and patted his shoulder, looking away. The war was extinguished, but he knew in his heart that as long as Caslan's blood was there, the land would never fall. And he, Renn Caslan, will always be the guardian of this vast land and become the king who has passed down through the ages.